movie Leftovers.
Hey, we're back.
What's up? We're back.
What's going on, man?
You know, it's getting chilly down here.
Yeah.
It's getting really chilly. I woke up this morning and it was like 49 degrees or something, so it wasn't like freezing, but I stuck an arm out of the covers and I was like, nope. Pulled it right back in. I'm like, I'm not ready for this. But the day got better. Got so much better.
We had our first frost. There was snow in my
Yeah.
car this morning. Yeah. Just a dusting, but
That's kind of horrible.
winter is coming.
Yeah. Winter's coming. Yeah.
Mm.
So we're back, everyone. It's movie Leftovers time, and we delicately said we were going to be doing Fast and Furious 1, and here it is. This is what we're doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
It was a blast from the past from 2001,
Yeah.
which is wild to think how old that franchise is. 21 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
We were talking off script a little bit before we kicked off the show. They're working on their 10th film in the franchise. Like, the scripts are floating around for Fast and Furious 10. Like, that's pretty incredible that this thing could keep on with the legs that it's kept on with, you know?
does that include Hobbs and Shaw?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think those are like kind of those expanded universe sub-stories, but yeah, they're part of the Universal franchise.
Right. So
Yep. Because there was a YouTube short that somebody did that I think they're saying is canonical now. It's like a 6-minute movie about what happens with Brian O'Connor between 1 and 2. If you were to cut Tokyo Drift out and make that like an ancillary film, where it's like also part of the universe. And I watched that today too, and it's actually kind of interesting. It's more or less like him just fleeing Los Angeles, street racing his way through getting better cars and more money, and then he hits this freeway like split, and it's like New York that way, Miami that way, and he's driving in the middle, and he's just kind of hits the fucking button and goes to Miami kind of thing.
Okay.
And then he like pulls up and sees a bunch of pretty girls walking around, and then 2 import cars pulling across, and he smiles and follows them. So
Nice.
that's kind of all you need to sum up. You don't need a whole movie about that. So I think that's the right answer. But yeah, there's a ton of like adjacent content to this franchise, which is kind of impressive.
That's wild, man.
Yeah.
Also impressive is the Rotten Tomatoes score.
Oh, really?
So, yes. So let's get to that.
Here we
As
go.
you can
That's
see-
way higher than I thought.
Yeah, the critics didn't love it so much. Only 53% of critics liked it.
Yeah.
Whereas the audience score really did enjoy it. So that's cool. As you can see,
It outscored
74%.
Charlie's Angels, so that's something. And Tomb Raider.
Right?
Yeah.
So the critic consensus is a slick and shiny on the surface.
Yeah.
The Fast and the Furious recalls those cheesy teenage exploit films of the 1950s. Which, yeah, I can see that.
I think so too.
100%. Yeah. But
I'd
so,
be willing to bet if you were to interview the actors, like where they weren't promoting a film, with just like, you know, on actor or something, and you ask them point blank, did you think this movie was going to become this massive franchise with all these devout followers? Or did you think this was just something to get some screen time in the early 2000s as you were building your career? I don't think any of them would have expected it to become the franchise that it became, you know? Like, I
No,
don't think
not
any
at
of them
all.
would have.
yeah. No, not at all. But, you know, there are some people who very much enjoy this film. So what did you think of it? So we recently rewatched it, so.
Yeah. You know, when we do rewatches, nostalgia is like a common theme in almost every episode we do. But for this one, I think it's a little bit different. It hit me at the right time of life that it solved a lot of puzzle pieces that I didn't know how to describe. I've always been into cars and automobiles and bikes and all kinds of stuff. And it's funny, years ago, my mom called me and she said, "Hey, I got a letter from you." And she read it to me. And the interesting part was there was an English assignment in my 3rd or 4th grade class where the English teacher said, you got to write to yourself. in the future, and you have to explain all the stuff that you're into now. And at the end of every school year, I look at the graduating class and I mail them their letters that if they had come through my class before. So when you get out of high school, I'm going to mail you yours. And she did. And she does this every year. And so mine finally came through. And what was stark about it as my mom read it to me was I was into the same shit when I was a kid. Like I described, I liked, the Honda Civic Del Sol because I thought it had a lot of cool potential and it was neat looking. And I was really into fast cars at the time. Not that the Honda was. But like years later, this movie solved a lot of those things. And so rewatching it, it's like, yeah, this is kind of cornball. Like there's a lot of cheesy moments in this movie, especially with the dialogue, and the over exaggeration. But it really did describe my lifestyle and friends in that moment when it came out. And of course, it started the revolution of like everybody taking their mom's Honda Civic and putting an exhaust on it. And then, you know what I'm saying? Like that was the scene. Sure. But what followed was like car clubs and parts and tuning houses and all the stuff that I'd been looking for to like find a creative way to express the shit that I was into. And it hasn't changed. Like even now, I can't not fucking touch a car that I buy and put something on it or change it or, evaluate its performance. So looking back, it was kind of, it was almost like a prophetic in a way, not that it had any deep meaning, but it was really cool. It was very eye-opening that it was like, oh, this lifestyle and what they're exploring while it's very Hollywooded out is very real to me and had a very big part of my development early on in my life for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's cool, man. Well, I'm glad you liked it. For me, I remember watching this film and not being that into it. Like, I thought it was okay, but I also remember thinking parts of it was boring. Going back and rewatching it now, it's more interesting than I thought. You can see where they get to the point now where they have magnets and they're jumping into planes and all of that. All of that is there from the beginning. It's not as grounded as people like to say that it originally was. It's just not.
I mean, you've got these scenes where they're hijacking a commercial truck while it's in transit on the freeway. It's like, okay, this is a little out of control. And then obviously
they're using like harpoon guns to
shit that like a 15-year-old kid would think of when it's like, how would you hijack a moving truck with 3 Honda Civics, right? You're like, oh, I would do it with harpoon guns all day. And a tranq dart. Somehow you just have these things where you can just shoot a tranquilizer dart and the guy that's got the baton in his truck that's trying to hit you just, like these things are magic. But someone who knows cars pretty well can spot some things where it's like, this car would get smoked by that car. Doesn't matter what they have under the hood, blah, blah, blah. But besides all that, just for the suspension of disbelief, tons of fun. Yeah. But way out of, it's always been a little out of control, to your point.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Let's get to what some other people thought about it.
Let's do it.
So over on Rotten Tomatoes, we got Gage W, who gave it 5 stars. And he says, The Fast and the Furious is a fresh start to an amazing franchise that focuses on the relationship between Brian and Dom, while providing fun races and relatively small scale, but still enjoyable action sequences.
I agree with the first half.
Small scale.
Yeah, huh? I agree with the first half of that assessment, but not the second half.
Yeah. That's kind of how I feel too. And then
but hey, 5 stars, right?
Yeah, 5 stars. However, though, Stephen C gave it only half a star and said the worst of the 9 Fast and the Furious movies because of the terrible car chases. So many exclamation points. Accidents included. A couple more exclamation points.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I could see that, although I would argue some of the subsequent films had way worse car crashes than that were like, are you really going to jump this into a helicopter or off a building in Dubai into another building in Dubai? Oh, you are? Okay, well, let's just sit down and grab some popcorn. Yeah.
Right.
This one was relatively tame by comparison. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Also, the budget, right? It had to be cheap. Like, I don't think they could. I know for a fact because a guy that I know, his car was in that movie.
Okay.
His car was like one of the background cars in the street race scene or whatever. So I know they didn't just own all these cars back then. They had like extras that were providing their own vehicles to a certain degree. So this couldn't have been very high budget.
No, it was not. The budget was 38 million,
Yeah.
and adjusted for inflation, that would be about 63.6 million nowadays.
For an action movie with lots of explosions, and that's pretty
That's
small.
pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good. The box office though was pretty great. It was 207.3 million.
Had a long tail too.
It had a very long tail, and adjusted for inflation, that would be just shy of 350 million. So,
Yep.
pretty good return on investment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't think people realize, maybe now exploring this conversation with us, they will, but I don't think people realize exactly what that did to American culture. Like,
No.
because when you hear about American car scene, your thoughts probably go back to like the 50s and like 60s, right? Where you're getting like
Right.
big blocks and people are looking for the right kind of GTO or Mustang versus Camaro. Like all that shit changed after this movie came out, and it opened up, American car culture into a whole different thing, not just speaking exclusively to Japanese domestic imports and stuff like that. But that definitely amplified it and created a huge market.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, that moves so many people to it. I mean, its influence is still felt today.
Oh yeah.
So.
Oh dude, even in modern car design, because most of the kids that were into Fast and Furious and watching that shit then are now designing cars for Nissan and Toyota and Honda, and like you can definitely see the influences from the tuner culture making its way up. But it doesn't always flow down from race cars down, although that's where most of the technological advancements come from. But yeah,
Right.
You're right.
Yeah. Well, tell you what. Let's take our ad break, and then we'll come back and we'll do our pitches. What we would do with the franchise if Hollywood gave us a blank check and let us go nuts.
Let's go. Let's
So-
pay the bills.
All right. Be right back.
Yeah.
And we are back.
Yay.
So,
Yeah.
yes. So, for those who have never listened before, what we like to do is we review the movie first, and then in the second half of the show, we give our pitch as to what we would do with the film franchise. Either remake, a sequel, reboot, reimagine, whatever it is we're going to do. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first? How do you want to do that?
Go first.
Okay. So I thought about this quite a bit, and I wanted to fix some of the problems I had with the original film. One of my big issues is the fact that he's a cop and going undercover. That's not typical for local police. That's more of an FBI kind of thing. Local police might do like a quick, like undercover as a drug bust, like a buy, something quick. Not
Well, even if the cops do, and LAPD probably has a large enough department to perform these kinds of tasks, is it really going to be chasing down TVs with built-in DVD players? Or is it going to be like hundreds of tons of heroin,
right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Anyway.
Well, they did say that it was over 6 million in stolen merchandise.
Yeah, combined over how many years? I mean, you look at that stuff
Right.
now and you're like, you can't even buy that on Amazon discount now.
Yeah.
Anyway, I
exactly.
digress.
Yeah. So I started it as so here's my take. I'm gonna completely reimagine this thing.
Okay.
And I'm gonna do it as the FBI is trying to track down a high performance car ring that has been same thing. They're snatching product and they're stealing things. The ring has struck in several major cities and rural areas. That's why it's an FBI case and not just local PD. The FBI then brings in former race car driver Brian O'Connor. Brian O'Connor is currently in prison because he had some tax issues. So nothing that, violent, just that he's in jail right now, or prison. He's told that if he can help them bring down the ring, he will get his sentence reduced. They basically
go.
Suicide Squad him.
Some gray man vibes a little bit.
A little
Do this
bit,
for
a little
us.
bit.
Yeah, I got
Yeah.
you.
So Brian suggests that the group doing the stealing must be recruiting from the street racing scene, and it just so happens the biggest event, Race Wars, will be taking place in the desert soon, and he can go over there and figure out more and see what he can find out for the FBI. While he's there, he meets Johnny Tran and Dominic Torero, and decides that it must be Johnny Tran because of some shady activity. Very similar to like in this film, he misunderstands what's going on and points the finger at the wrong guy.
Yeah.
The botched arrest leads to Brian O'Connor learning that Dominic is the true criminal behind it. But however, Brian really likes Dom, and they bond over racing, right? Um, and through that, Brian finds out, and then Brian also starts dating Mia, and he figures out that Dom's next target is going to be a giant diamond that is being transported to a museum. So, in order to stop the crime, Brian then has to go after Dom. He does. They chase each other. It becomes a big thing. Eventually, Brian catches him. The police are about to close in. Dom knows he's going to jail, just like at the end. But that's when Brian realizes, Brian himself has been in prison. He knows how bad that is. And he knows he doesn't want that for his brother, Dom. So that's when he tells Dom, hey, get out of here. And same thing.
So
same
yeah,
thing.
kind of has the salvation mentality to it where he's like, I'm just going to keep you from all the shit that I had to deal with in jail.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So that's it. My cast, it took a little bit to figure out who I wanted for the cast, but I think I got a decent cast. So let's start with Johnny Tran. I'll work my way up. Johnny Tran, I got Ryan Potter, who currently plays Beast Boy on Titans, if you're familiar with that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. For Mia Toretto, I decided to go with Millie Bobby Brown from Stranger Things 11.
Okay.
Yeah. For Letty, I went with Carmen Byakadova. She played Catwoman in the Gotham series.
Yep. She was
Yeah.
my hardest cast fill choice as well.
Yeah. Well, I went with her because she's now like in her early 20s, so she's a good fit for this. So, for Dominic Toretto, that was my hardest one because I like the idea of Dom being a big dude, but Vin is one of a kind. So I want to change it up a little bit.
Just joking.
Yeah,
So there are many like him, but this one is mine. Just joking.
that's right. That's right. So I went with Alan Rickson. He's currently playing Jack Reacher on that show Reacher on Amazon.
He's a
Yeah.
big dude.
He's a big dude. He also played Raphael in the Ninja Turtle movies, the Michael Bay ones. So yeah, so that's my Dominic Toretto. I think he's a good fit for that. And then to have that counterbalance, especially physically counterbalance to and how they look and everything. For
Jesse
Brian O'Connor,
Eisenberg.
no, close though, close. I went with Grant Gustin from The Flash.
Oh, nice. I actually
Yeah.
dig this.
Yeah. I think he's got a good look for Brian. He's got that meekness about him, that softness.
Is he gonna harden and then soften starting out in jail and working his way into a friendship?
Yeah.
Kind of. Okay,
Yeah.
I got you. Yeah, I like that a lot, actually.
Yeah. And then, of course, being the Flash, he knows how to go fast. So,
So this is a standalone movie, or you think this is the start of a franchise?
I mean, this is probably the start of a franchise.
Yeah,
but,
I think so too.
Yeah.
I like that, dude. I actually like the casting choice going with the girl from Gotham too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. It's a good idea.
Awesome.
Yeah, I don't have any
Well,
complaints.
what about yours?
Really. I like
Huh?
that. It's kind of a different twist on a story that we're all can relate to one way or the other.
Yeah.
Okay. So Fast and Furious movie, full reimagine. We're not doing cars. We're doing thoroughbred racehorses. Illegal quarter horse racing. Okay.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding. None of that's true. I'm gonna make this a series, not a movie. I'm going to update it to present time, so we're gonna have kind of younger actors, and I think I want to take these actors to like late teens, early 20s, so that it's I can write a story around them that was relevant to when I experienced this part of, my life and culture and barbecues with friends and what can we do to our cars and all that stuff, right?
Right.
So there's going to be 3 major stories that don't intertwine until the end of the first season. And those stories are going to be centered around the Toretto O'Brien piece, the Johnny Chan piece, and the Hector piece. And all 3 of these consistent storylines are going to have one major player in it. And that's going to be sort of like the ultimate bad guy at the end of the scene. And I picture profiteering off of all these different family units, the Toretto piece, the Chan piece, the Hector piece, by kind of allowing them to race in the city. So I'm picturing like a mayor type of character.
Okay.
Allowing race wars to go on, but they have to run nefarious activities for him or cover up nefarious activities for him. And the mayor of LA is going to be played by James Marsden, right? So kind of a slick dude, nice smile. He's from most recently Westworld. He plays like the all-American boy type of cowboy guy that keeps dying over and over again in the first series of Westworld. So James Marsden's our guy for that. What we're going to do is have how these kids kind of relate. Probably like on the Toretto side, it's going to be just out of high school, getting into street racing, driving pizzas, all that stuff. Brian meets Dom through Mia, but at a chance encounter at a house party while he's out wrenching on cars, and then that's how he gets involved with the Toretto clan. We're still going to have Dominic Toretto as sort of like the figurehead of the family, but he's the one that has, this James Marsden character has something over his head, and that's why he keeps sneaking off to do all these things with his buddies. The Hector piece is going to be kind of similar, but he's struggling between basically joining a, street culture, gang culture, or race culture, or whatever. Like he's involved in all kinds of shit. He wants to go straight. He wants to be on that Nairis circuit, like he talked about. He wants to go legit, but his community and his friend group are kind of pulling him away from that. So he has some hard choices to make, and he gets put in some interesting situations. Chan is just straight up going to be the rich kid that wants to rule the streets and has no regard for anybody, which is kind of how he felt in the movie, where his dad has this lavish environment and he's well dressed and comes from a ton of money, and is just kind of a bossy dude and a prick. But his involvement in street racing is more centered around wanting to be cool and dangerous, not because he actually needs to make money or has any stake in anything, and he's kind of a prick. So I want this series to go on, like full Netflix style series. We're going to have a couple of episodes that dance between all 3 of these consistent storylines in Los Angeles in the same time. And the only feature we're going to have for all 3 as they unfold is the James Marsden character and what he has over these kids, or what he has them doing to keep his nefarious activities in line. It'll all culminate at Race Wars, and it will go on from there. We'll leave a couple of twists for what a season 2 might look like going forward, but each faction as we go through the stories are going to have their own favorite cars, their own way of tuning them. It's going to kind of go deep into a lot more of that culture, like what you do in the garage, more so than just the over Hollywoodized movie representation. So here is the cast. Hector is going to be played by Diego Tinoco, who's kind of a younger actor. Johnny Tran's dad, I want Chow Yun Fat.
Oh, I like that.
That's going to be his dad, who's kind of the matriarch of their family and then disagrees with his son's rebellion and shit. Johnny Tran, I'm really, really toss up, because if I go with Andrew Koji, it amplifies the age a little bit. If I go with Steven Yeun, who I originally wrote down, I think that would be more aligned to the rest of the cast's age and the age group. And I think I like Steven Yeun a little bit more. He's the dude from The Walking Dead.
From Walking Dead, yeah.
Yep. So on to the Toretto clan. We'll start with Jesse. I want Jesse Rath to play Jesse. He's from Supergirl. He'll be a little more brooding and a lot less ADD. So like really smart, but can't quite focus. But they don't really make that the centerpiece of the Neurosis character. Didn't really like that. Leon, I want Bill Skarsgård. I think he'd be a great Leon. Just a couple of one-liners, always in the background, always trying to pull Vince out of a fight, that kind of shit.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be great. Vince, I want Daniel Radcliffe. And
Okay.
he's gonna be interested in Mia the whole time, and she's gonna just think he's kind of one of Dominic's dumb shit friends that doesn't really like, but there to impress. Mia Toretto, Selena Gomez. I think she could do it. I think she could play Mia Toretto.
I think she could too.
Yep. Letty Ortiz. I cast Jenna Ortega. She plays in Scream 5 and in Tim Burton's Addams Family live action thing. She played Wednesday Addams.
Yeah.
But she might be younger than Selena Gomez, so I don't know how that would work. Either because
that's quite
Letty's
an age
character is a
difference
couple
between
years
those two.
older. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so Dominic Toretto. This is where I cheated really hard. I took Vinnie Bennett, who plays young Dominic Toretto in Fast 9 when they do the flashbacks, or Fast 9. But they cast that so well, and I thought he has a pretty strong role as playing a younger Dominic Toretto when they go through the dad and racetrack and life story. Mm-hmm. So I'll bring him back. Vinnie Bennett can play that. And then Brian O'Connor, I put Ben Hardy in there, and Ben Hardy is from Six Underground.
Okay.
He plays the dude that runs around and jumps on buildings and does like parkour stuff, but he has like the long blonde hair kind of thing. I think he'd be the perfect. Okay. I think he'd be the perfect Brian. And I would do a full series on this, focused on the cars, the culture, the 3 storylines that start to unfold, and then Race Wars would be your culmination, where they kind of have to confront one another, and also James Marsden's evil guy character, and we'll figure it out from there.
Okay, that sounds great, man.
Yeah, and way less cornball. Like way less cornball.
Yeah, you're taking it far more seriously.
Some of that was just way over the top. So that's what I would do.
I like it. I like the serious take.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very cool. Well, what are we going to do next week?
You're up, dude. What are we doing?
So I have an idea.
Okay.
Typically, we've been doing older films.
Yep.
I want to do something that doesn't even come out until tomorrow.
Okay.
It is the new Weird Al movie.
Oh?
It's going to be on Roku. So if you don't have a Roku, you can just download it on the Roku channel. It should be free on there to watch.
Okay.
And it's the one starring Daniel Radcliffe playing Weird Al. Okay. And it's a parody of biopics. So it's supposed to be really great, is what I've heard.
Nice.
So.
What's the name of the movie?
I think it's just called Al or Weird, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll take a look. Yeah. I'm excited. I like Weird Al a lot.
Me too.
I think
I thought that about you, so I thought, okay, that might be a fun one. Plus, it's something new.
UHF is one of my all-time favorites, believe it or not.
Same. So the fact that he's got another movie going sounds like a blast.
That's all. Do you know if he like did? Was he like a producer on it or?
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Weird Al is very involved.
Nice.
He's even one of the characters in it. I think he plays one of the record executives. So.
Oh, sick. Oh, that'll be fun. But it's a parody, right? It's a parody of
a parody.
Okay. This will be interesting. We'll see a little more range from Daniel Radcliffe too. That kid can do anything, man. He's on Broadway. Yeah, he's doing whatever that little wizard's name was. Harry Potter. He's doing that shit. He's doing all kinds of shit.
He's doing all sorts of things. He's a phenomenal actor, and I think.
And he's Vince in my version of
looks crazy.
Fast and Furious. So.
Yeah, he might be in Fast and Furious. People want him to be Wolverine. It's crazy.
Is that true?
Yeah, people do want him to be Wolverine.
Wow, I never thought of it. He's kind of a little dude, isn't he?
Yeah, and Wolverine is a little dude. So. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean,
although I've seen it
height-wise, yeah, but like muscle, he'd have to. That's what I mean. Like, I know he's kind of a shorter guy, but like.
I mean, I think he could
Wolverine,
do it.
But like, Wolverine.
Yeah.
He's
he'll have to hit the gym, but. Cool. Well, we'll do Weird Al, that movie, and that'll be for next week. Awesome. Well, anything else?
I think that's it.
Cool. Thanks everybody for listening or watching, and we'll be back next week.
Sounds good.
Bye.
Bye.